Great defeaters, new and old, welcome back to another episode of The Breakdown. This time with a trifecta of hosts, your boy, BaseDaKID, Tony, the Pugilist Boy, and special guest, Dani Glover from Fightfantvlive Live, who you're going to be seeing a lot more of on the show moving forward. We are the children of the game. Tony, Dani, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, man. I'm all good. Had a nice week. Tony too slow to the draw there. Got to be like John Wayne. So yeah. It's all good. Yeah, man. It's all blessed.
I was
Tony?
giving you the benefit of my seniority against your youth. I thought I'd let the youngster come in first. So, it's nothing but a thing. Doing well. I'm pleased to be in this trifecta because, you are my guys. Much respect to you guys. As the people may or may not know, I'm away next week because I'm at the big fight in Las Vegas. So I won't be here for the show. So you guys are carrying the show while I'm up in the air. And I'm gracious and gratitude to both of you for doing so in my absence.
No worries. Right. So we've got quite a bit to get through today. Not in terms of necessarily action, but there's a few other things that will be taking place on the show. So Tony, because I'm leaving sort of pretty much the control to yourself, I will do the greetings of the defeaters, and then we can get into sort of the first round, and yeah, we can sort of take it from there. So from what I can see, big up Bigsy Biggs, who seems to be the first person who came through. Michael Januario, bless up to you. AAV Develops, bless up to you as well. North Bank Bring, big member of the channel. Big up Brendan. Big up Muller. Big up C Boogie. And then we got Jonah31, another member of the channel. And then we've got the ever-present G Chain right at the bottom, carrying the load and the weight of the chat at the minute. So bless up to everyone who's in. Tony, take it away. Where are we going first?
Right. So fairly quiet weekend of boxing. I mean, we had 3 big cards, 2 for the zone. I'm trying to think who the third one was. PBC, of course. But
technically, we had 3 big cards on the zone, but
Yeah, that's right. Well, you consider that additional card that I don't. I don't want. But if you want to talk about it, we gotta be accepting these days that there's an ulterior audience out there who may be following us, and maybe we need to help them out understand a little bit of what's going on in the fight game in their arena, so to speak. But as always, we're working chronological order, so we will start our action this week at the UK card, the Matchroom card, which was headlined by Josh Kelly.
Matchroom.
Not Matchroom. Wasserman. Yes, right. Absolutely. Which was headlined by Josh Kelly against Corzo, whose first name I don't recall.
Gabriel.
Who wants to take this one on?
You can take it, seeing as you starting. Go on.
Well, I'm kowtowing.
Are you saying you haven't watched it? Is that what you're saying, Tony?
I'm watching. I'm gonna control things from the back. So
okay,
Dani,
gentlemen.
put your hands up.
Okay, gentlemen. So Gabriel Corzo versus Josh Kelly. It was, I would say, not one of Josh Kelly's best performances. The reason being is that Gabriel Corzo was not really engaging. And what I've come to realize is that Josh Kelly is a counter-puncher type fighter who has very fast twitch muscles and can be explosive. But when he has to hunt a man down, he doesn't really know how to do it that effectively. Even though on the front foot, he was landing some good shots to head and body. But as we know, Josh Kelly, even though he's gone up to 154 pounds and he's looking quite hench and muscular now, he still doesn't have power. He still, can't crack an egg, unfortunately. So he was hitting him flush, but Corzo was able to take the shots pretty handedly. He had decent footwork. was a bit negative in there himself. It's not like he was trying to actually win, Mr. Corzo. But at the end of the day, Josh Kelly, he did what he had to do. He got the rounds in, and I think he needs to get in there with a good domestic opponent, because that will help bring the numbers up on Channel 5 or the Zone, depending what platform he's going to, his fights are going to be showcased on, because guys like Gabriel Corzo, no one really knows of them. So the average punter is not really likely going to be interested to tune in. But there's a plethora of 154 pounders. Like, I'd like to see him against someone like Liam Smith. That would be a good fight. What's his Liam Williams, even though he's a bit faded, but he also boxes under the Wasserman banner. So guys like that, there's some domestic fights that can be made.
Liam Smith beats the crap out of him. That's not even a competitive fight. I don't want to see that. I didn't watch the full fight, if I'm gonna be real. I was kind of in and out watching it. It wasn't that entertaining. Sort of the first half of it, again, he done pretty much what he wanted to do with Gabriel Corzo, sort of first 6 rounds from what I saw. And then after that, it just sort of descended into more of the same. So, yeah, I don't particularly have that much more to contribute towards it. The card itself, I didn't watch the entire card. The only other fight I saw was Steve Robinson against Franklin Ignatius. So with regards to this card, I can't particularly give my true insights or breakdown of the fights. All I can say is, with regards to like what Danny just said there, when it comes to Josh Kelly, he looks a lot better on the back foot than he does on the front. But the fact that he doesn't have the necessary power to like really hurt these guys, especially guys that are either tough, durable, or know how to defend correctly, a lot of fights are gonna end up being boring. He sort of like he struck gold with the Troy Williamson one, because that fight was actually entertaining. But from all intents and purposes, all the other fights you kind of saw after the David Avanesian fight have all seemed to be sort of very mundane and pedestrian after a couple of rounds here and there. So yeah, I don't have too much more to add to that one. Yeah, it wasn't that interesting. But yeah, he gets a win. He vacated his British title to go on to world honors, and we'll see what he does kind of moving forward. But yeah, it's pretty much it for me.
So yeah, much like you guys have said, we kind of have seen where Josh Kelly's gonna plateau. We kind of know that he's never gonna be an elite fighter. However, he's an entertaining domestic level type fighter who there are some very good fights out there in the future for him. As far as this fight was concerned this weekend, I think he showed himself that he's a diligent worker. He didn't slow down. His work rate was very good. His shot selection was superb. I thought it was a very well controlled and just a well balanced performance. Pretty much dominated from top to bottom. So yeah, I'm actually of the mindset to think, what, at some point you're gonna have to throw him in the deep water. He's been there before. Well, not really deep water, but deep enough to show himself to be not the levels that we thought he might be. But he's going to get there again. I did see that he called out Jamel Charlo. He's dreaming. But let a boy dream. You've got to have that confidence. As a boxer, you have to believe that you're the best. And if you take a loss, you still have to believe that you're the best, because you have to go back in the lab and do what you need to do to correct the mistakes you made before and come back bigger, stronger, harder, faster. We've seen loads of guys lose fights and come back and become all-time greats. So, there's no reason why, because he's been found in the past, that we shouldn't think that, he can't ascend again. And I think it'll be interesting to see how his ascent goes from now on.
Okay, cool. Well, we spent enough time on that. Big up to Elijah Fenn, who's, even though I spelled my name incorrectly, I still big you up, Elijah. BaseDaKID, big yourself up. I've seen your interviews with Dev asking the real questions. I appreciate it. That's what I'm here to do. And again, we're still looking for Frank Warren. He'll come out of hiding soon enough. Big up, Frank. All right, Tony, where we going next?
Right. Is there anything on the undercard that you guys want to talk about from that one?
I just wanted to know the result of Frank Ignatius versus Steve Robinson because I didn't see it.
He won unanimous decision. He pretty much beat Robinson every round. I can't remember what the scorecard was, but I watched it, and Robinson could barely lay a glove on him. Franklin tied him up when he needed to, fought him on the outside, fought him on the inside. It was a mismatch.
Okay.
In my opinion. I mean, someone else might think differently. I'm sure if Sporting Icons came on the chat, he might have a different point of view because, Steve Robinson's his boy. But yeah, he looked out of place in that fight from what I saw personally.
Cool. Okay, so the next action that we will go to then is actually not one of the big three. It's the European fight card that was very hard to find. I didn't get a hold of it, but did anybody see the Dan Azeez? I saw the highlight finish, but the rest of that card or even that fight, Dan Azeez?
It was an untelevised card. It was a points win, actually. It wasn't even a finish. So yeah, but he dropped him, and he also gave him 2 standing counts. The ref gave him 2 standing counts. Dan Azeez, good workmanlike performance. Khalid Gradia, he'd been in recently with Ezra, and also
Ezra Taylor. I was there. I watched that fight live. I was in York Hall for that fight.
Yeah,
that was a great fight, a great scrap.
And also he'd been in with Carol Etuama as well recently. Both went to points over 8 rounds. So Dan went 8 rounds with him as well, but dropped him and also gave him 2 standing counts, coming up the middle with uppercuts, hooks round the side. Good run out performance to gear him up to fight Joshua Buatsi, which has been signed. Other than that, I know that Sandor Martin was on the undercard and he smashed up my accumulator, same as he did to BaseDaKID by stopping his guy.
No, he was the main event. He was the main event. Yeah,
he was the main event, sorry. And he stopped his guy and mashed up my accumulator because I had him on points. But yeah, other than that, it was an untelevised card. But it's good, an old school, back in the day type maneuver from Dan. He went out on holiday to Italy and Milan and then saw a card available and said, hey, wait, why don't I jump on it?
Yeah, and I got to commend Dan for that because you just don't see enough of it. Guys that will go out there and find themselves in a situation overseas and say, you know what, there's a fight there, I'm taking it.
Yeah, and
kind of reminds me a bit of Ashley Fearfane. Ashley used to be the guy to just go anywhere around the world, fought in umpteen countries. I don't think there's many fighters who have fought in the multitude of countries that Ashley fought in. But yeah, that's something that is a great thing. The great Muhammad Ali fought literally every part of the world. There are some guys in America ain't been out their state. So, long may that continue. Thank you very much, Dan, for showing people the way. We want to see more of that, guys. Go overseas. Test yourself. Get into some deep water somewhere else and see if you can handle the baying crowd from another country.
Yeah, for the 2 former boxers on the panel, Ramel has said, what was the purpose of Azeez taking that fight? Surely sparring would have been better. Please feel free to let him know what the purpose was, because I could tell him, but I'm not a former boxer.
The purpose is that it's not the same. The sparring is not full pelt. It's got headgear on. It's bigger gloves. There isn't a crowd. There isn't pressure on the line that is going to go on your record. The intensity, the build up, the whole that type of thing. It goes on your record. It's an experience fighting somebody that you don't necessarily know. It's nothing like sparring. It's 2 completely different things.
And also keeping sharp. Yep.
Exactly, keeping sharp. He's not having to pay the sparring partner. He's getting paid himself. Obviously, he would have taken not big money, but that's good. It just shows you that he's not in it about, I'm the hardest to negotiate with. If you got a fight, got gloves, we'll travel.
And just to reiterate the purpose of traveling overseas, you look at the fight coming up in a week's time, or just over a week's time, between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Both guys won titles overseas.
Yep.
Yeah.
England and Scotland.
Yeah. So it just goes to show, good fighters go overseas. Good fighters go overseas. You know, look, for the longest time we were saying, you know, would Joshua fight out of the UK? When it finally happened, he came a cropper. So you need to have that in your makeup. I know he had boxed internationally as an amateur, but he hadn't done so as a pro. You need to give yourself every opportunity to be able to go in different settings and perform. So it's important that you can, if you can, during your, you know, upbringing, you know, get out there into some murky places, some back street places. You know, it's all very well fighting at the O2 week in, week out, but you know, sometimes you got to go in a Telford Leisure Centre, or you got to go in a York Hall, or you got, you know, smaller arenas, just so you know what it feels like.
Yeah. And it's not even necessarily Telford or York Hall. You got to go for, as Dan Azeez did for his European title, went to France. Now he's boxed out in Italy. So if he was to box out in America or Canada, he'd be prepared for it. Like guys like Usyk, Road Warriors, Glenn Goff Johnson, Road Warriors, Arthur Beterbiev, Road Warrior, Dimitri Bivol, Road Warrior. These guys travel. Devin Haney, he travelled across the world. So if that's the whole purpose. So I hope that breaks that down for you.
Lovely. Right, Tony, next one.
Okay, so the next card that we're going to go to is Premier Boxing, PBC, which was headlined by Frank Martin. And go on, Base, give me the pronunciation for Artem.
I think it's Artem Harutyunyan.
Thank you very much. I love my guy because he's
Harutyunyan. Harutyunyan. Yes, I'm mad like that.
Yeah. So you want to take this one, Base?
No, I haven't watched the fight.
Oh.
It wasn't anyway. It went on to Fight TV last minute, and they wanted £10 for it, so I haven't seen it yet. I will watch it at some point, but I haven't seen it yet.
I watched it, but I know Base was up because me and Base was on Twitter, conversing on Twitter at that time, because the Zone show had just finished. So yeah, with the Frank Martin fight, I'm switched over straight after the Zone's main event, so I called them this main event. So yeah, Frank Martin, I had high expectations. Obviously, I've seen him box before, but I didn't realize this guy was an Olympic bronze medalist. This Harutyunyan guy, and he was causing Frank Martin some real problems, outboxing him in quite a lot of the early rounds. Frank, you know, it was like nip and tuck, but then Harutyunyan started pulling away with a bit of a healthy lead. So getting into, and what I did notice that this Haruty guy, he's a bit of a complainer, man. Every time they accidentally clashed heads, he'd turn away, crying, and he thought that he was cut, but the ref would see that there's no cut. So then obviously he'd go, oh, clash of heads, but no damage or whatever. But this guy was just moaning about body shots, accidental clash of heads, because it was Southpaw versus Orthodox. But anyways, by round 10, Frank Martin was definitely behind, and credit to Derek Jane, because he gave him the right act in the corner. He's like, hey, you're behind, you got to knock him out, you know. So he was like, you're blatantly behind, like you're down. So then the 10th, 11th, Frank Martin turned it on, proper gave it to him, had Harutyunyan like running, rocked him, wobbled him, and in the 12th, he managed to drop him, and that kind of sealed the deal and got him like just over the line. Like one scorecard was 114, 113, and the other two was 115, 112. 115, 112. So that literally the knockdown got him over the line, mate. But I'm telling you, at round 10, he was down. Like, yeah. So well,
to be fair, if without the knockdown, it would have been a majority decision win to him anyway. So
yeah, but had he not got the
one draw card.
Yeah, but had he not got the 10th and 11th as well, because he was definitely down after 9. it was definitely damn bad, man.
Yeah,
But
but I'm saying he got those anyway. So with the knockdown, that obviously sealed it for the 12th. But he would have got the 12th anyway. So it would have been a majority decision win. 2 115, 113s and 114, 114, right?
yeah, well, I had it the 114, 113 where the knockdown basically carried him over for me. So yeah, but
Okay.
good learning experience for him, and it shows you that you can't slip. But it just shows you that when it was time and the pressure was on, and Derek had to give him the speech, he managed to muster up what he needed to do to get the win. So it's a good start for Derek James, because you definitely don't want to be going onto this series starting off on a loss. So hey, he's one down, 4 to go. Or 3 to go, sorry. 3 to go.
Yeah, this is a mad schedule for Derek James, and literally you kind of go, wow, he did well to clutch a victory from the jaws of defeat. Much like yourself, Danny, I mean, I felt that Frank Martin was lackluster in this fight. However you say his name, I'm just going to call him Artem. Artem was very much the aggressor in the first half of the fight, scoring in between Frank's sort of. Frank would throw punches and then he'd rest. And during that time, Artem would just be all over him and just constantly just give him angles and work hard, using hard work where, I always tell my boys in the gym, hard work beats talent if talent don't work hard. There's no doubt in my mind that Frank Martin was a more talented boxer of the two fighters. But Artem just worked hard. He knew, I can't match this kid for technique and all the pretty stuff. But what I can do is I can just work hard. And when he's resting, I'm going to work him. And that's what he did. So good business workman-like performance from Artem to do what he needed to do to win rounds, especially early on. He set the pace from the first round, literally winning the first round. That sets you up nicely, because when you're looking at a fighter like Frank Martin, you expect him to dominate from the first round onwards. Now you come out in the first round and the guy puts it on you. So, oh, hang on a second. This wasn't on the script. So Frank now has an issue because the guy came out and he gave me trouble in the first round. And more so, he won that first round. What do I do to correct that and ensure that I win the next rounds? Well, he wasn't able to correct it until the second half of the fight properly. So those issues will come back to haunt Frank Martin, I believe. Obviously, he'll go away and look at this fight and go, okay, I need to correct those things and ensure that I don't go down on the cards. But, there are killers in his division, and he's calling out, who was he calling out? Devin Haney, was it?
Yeah, Shakur Stevenson, all the rest of them.
You're like, really, Frank? Really, Frank? You was dealing with Artem and he was giving you trouble. What do you think Shakur Stevenson's going to do to you? So,
Artem, don't think just because we haven't heard, he's one of them ones again, just because we never heard of him, don't mean he can't fight, because this guy can definitely fight from what I've seen, and he definitely has technique. Olympic bronze medalist that's from Armenia, so this guy knows how to box, and also he has power, because I noticed when he was landing these straights to the body, that was proper moving Frank Martin back, which was actually kind of winded him, and the way Frank Martin was taking them and he was kind of curling, it kind of reminded me, I know Base is going to love this, it kind of reminded me of when Ugas was landing the straights to Errol Spence's body, and Errol was kind of folding a little bit, and he wasn't fancying them the most. But yeah, and that happened to Frank Martin. He was susceptible to that straight to the body, straight right to the body from the southpaw stance, unfortunately, and it was kind of hurting him. And I could see he was hurt by some of those shots. And also, Frank Martin wasn't landing throwing enough body shots himself. Even when he'd back Artem onto the ropes, he'd be landing a nice Adrian Broner flashy headshots, but then he wouldn't go down to the body when Artem's blatantly curled over, ready for the the right hook to the body and round the sides, he'd be headhunting a bit too much, and that's where he'd be missing a lot of his shots. And then Artem could like circle out and use his European boxing style to get out of the way, and then start getting his shots off as well.
Yo, Dani, just before we move on, there's a question here for you from Bruce Kai. He says, question for Dani. Why do we see Booth only train his fighters in one way and all look the same, but Derek James has multiple fighters who all fight differently? Bad trainer or?
Wouldn't say bad trainer, but some trainers, they will train their fighters all similar. Sometimes it's all to how they used to box back in the day themselves. So they only know one style, or there's other trainers who will work with your best attributes and just try to fine tune what you do best, rather than try to mold you into a fighter they want you to do. Where I noticed Adam Booth, he has Harlem Eubank boxing very much like George Groves, with a bit of David Hay in there, but very much like George Groves. Harlem Eubank reminds me of Josh Kelly. I wouldn't say he fights like David Hay or George Groves, but he has them in a very wide-based stance, and I think it's to try and generate explosive power. But you've got to change Josh Kelly's style because he doesn't have explosive power. He has explosiveness, but not power, unfortunately. So you're going to have to adapt his style and work more on his boxing, because that's where he's going to win, on his evasive slip and slide and playing, doing all that. He'd be more suited to use more Billy Joe type of herky jerky thing, a Fury, more of a traveller style. I think Josh Kelly would probably be better at using than a David Hay, George Groves, because he definitely ain't banging like them guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, sorry, Base, I just want to add very quickly, there are some trainers who are system trainers. They have a system. Adam Booth, for me, has been a system trainer from day dot, from David Hay days. I know he used a particular system for ensuring that David did set number of rounds, set number of kilometers per week, set number of punches per round. It was all finite in terms of what you're expecting your fighter to do. And anyone, I believe, that goes into the Booth camp is expected to follow certain criteria. Whereas there's clearly other fighter, fight trainers who will try to manipulate with what they've got and get the best out of it in a particular way, rather than try to remold what they're presented in with a fighter. I kind of think of Robert Garcia and what he did with AJ, and obviously it didn't work. And you kind of look at the way Garcia works with his fighters, and I just think he was trying to mold AJ, whereas what he needed to not try to mold AJ, he needed to work with the raw AJ and try to bring out the best out of what he got, rather than try to mold him into something that he's not, and he could never be.
Okay. Well, Bruce says that's skill. All his fighters have the same style, though. And then he says, like, they are all power punchers when they aren't. So basically, I guess that goes back to what you kind of said, Danny, where it's like he might just only know that style, or he had so much fame with it, like with David Hay and George Groves. He just thinks that anyone can be taught in that way if they do it. Maybe that's the thought process.
But let's think about that. Let's talk about that. Sorry, Base. Oh.
Well, not for too long, because we got other things going on today. So go on.
Yeah. So just wanted to say, I mean, you talk about power. Pretty much every trainer wants to get the max power out of their fighter, because ultimately knockouts is what sells seats and what's put seats on seats on bums on seats.
Bums on seats. Yeah.
Yeah. You're always looking to try to maximize your fighter's power. Whether that be the left hook, the right cross, the left uppercut, whatever it is, you're trying to put your fighter in a position where he can score with his maximum power shot and effect and get, knockouts and stoppages. That has an impact on every trainer.
Okay. Right, just before we go, I'm assuming there was nothing on the undercard worth talking about there. I will actually look at the card soon. It's just not for this week, unfortunately. Before we jump over to the zone one, there's two things I want to highlight from that Kingpin show that was on the Zone. There was two fights. One was the El Brook versus Julie Parker fight, and I only want to comment on it because Julie Parker, she's like a Brazilian. I don't know if she's like a Brazilian fitness model or something like that, but she had a very, very good southpaw backhand. She had a good jab and she had a good fundamental stance. So I have a feeling that she has some form of either former combat training or she picks up, like, I guess, boxing and the fundamentals of it extremely well. So if you haven't seen the fight itself, just have a look. Obviously it's on the Zone. Just have a look for that fight. Julie Parker, she's obviously going to be in that final of the Kingpin series now against some other girl called Barbie, who, as far as I'm concerned, I think she's going to destroy, based on how the two of them look. But I only wanted to highlight it because she impressed me for like a novice fighter or a novice boxer in that platform. Her stance, the punches she threw, the way she kind of set them up, the way she baited the opponent into traps. Even though obviously she was much taller, so she controlled the range very well as well. I was just quite impressed with that. Secondly, just on that same card, it was, I can't remember, Danny, if you've got your phone or if you can, there's a guy. So Aaron Chalmers was on there, the guy who's had that exhibition with Floyd Mayweather. He was fighting this guy called Kieran something. He's an Irish guy. I can't remember his surname, or maybe someone in the chat might have it. That was actually a very fun fight to watch as well. They're both MMA backgrounds, but Aaron Chalmers obviously had a 1-0 boxing record, and this guy was making his boxing debut, the Kieran guy. That in itself, that was a fun fight to watch as well. So I think it was over 5 rounds, 5 threes. So either 4 threes or 5 threes, one of the two. So if you haven't watched that, give that one a watch as well, just because I thought that was quite that in itself was quite entertaining as a natural fight. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight those two matches on that card because they were quite entertaining. Tony, feel free to move on to the next one.
Sorry, just before, also, guys, check out my guy King Kenny. He was also on the show. I haven't actually watched the fight, but I saw highlights and he done very well. And he smashed up his guy. The guy looked a bit like Tekashi 6ix9ine, and King Kenny dealt with him accordingly. So check him out too.
Northbound Bren is displeased with us covering that, but hey, as I said, Bren, sometimes we might need to broaden our horizons a little bit.
We covered the actual boxing. We covered the boxing events on there, not anything else, Bren. So we're not bringing attention to anything else other than the fights that was actually quite good on the card. So
cool. Okay, so we move over to the show
in Detroit,
headlined by Alycia Baumgardner. The return, or the rematch, I should say, against Linardatou. I'll talk about a couple of the undercard fights, if I may, one of which was the return of Jermaine Franklin, who I think is suddenly become a favorite for Eddie Hearn, because Eddie's giving this guy some good paydays. And, I think this was, a thank you to him for coming over the water and fighting two of his fighters and showing.
No, it wasn't.
Himself.
It wasn't. It was just the last fight on his 3-fight deal.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was at 3 weeks' notice, so it wasn't like he didn't actually plan to have him on there. But when Hitchens and Love fell off, that's when he hit him up. So it wasn't exactly that, but he might still work with him afterwards. But I'm just correcting you. It wasn't he's not a favorite at this point.
Yeah. And to be honest, based on the performance, I think, he's the kind of fighter that if you got, look, he's got, if Eddie's got ambition for some of his other heavyweights, Jermaine Franklin is not a fighter that you want to miss out on. He's pretty much flogged Derek Chisora to everybody and sundry. Yeah. So we kind of seen that. We don't want to see it anymore. Jermaine Franklin might cause an upset somewhere along the line with some of our talent over here and automatically put himself in line to be that gatekeeper type fighter.
He won't do it.
Up and coming.
He already said, just so you already know, he already said he wants to fight over here again. He won't fight Brits over here. That he's already said that. So that won't happen.
That's a shame. That's a shame. I mean, can the money perhaps change his mind in that decision? Because many a fighter can say, "Oh, I don't want to do this," but when the money's put in front of you.
Yeah, but he thinks he's a contender, right? So he believes that he's one of the best, and he wants to prove that. But in his opinion, fighting over here, fighting Brits over here, there's too much adversity to overcome, and it's not a fair playing field. While obviously he said he'll fight anyone else over here, he just won't fight Brits. That was exactly what he said after the last fight, and he said it in some interviews as well. The person you need to be speaking about coming over here and fighting the Brits is Isaac Munoz. He would definitely come over and give some people a test. That guy was tidy.
Yeah, for sure.
Go for it. Talk about the fight, Tony, and then the rest of us will get into it.
Okay. I'm just gonna. I know Patrick has just joined us in the back. Pat, give us about 5 minutes, and we'll bring you in, buddy. Hope you're well. So let's move on.
No, talk about the fight. Tony.
Oh, you talk about the fight, seeing as you think is. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So with the
go
fight,
for it, then. Go for it.
Yeah. There we go. Jermaine Franklin versus I forgot the guy's name.
Isaac Munoz.
Yes. So Jermaine Franklin. It was a good show, and I'm glad he got on it because it was a Michigan homecoming in some respect, because that probably helped as well to get him on last minute because it's somewhat hometownish. Him being from Senegal. What's the place called again? Saginaw, Michigan. Yeah. So he pulled out a good array of shots, good uppercuts, good hooks. Munoz, he's got one big old neck, and I think he's Mexican, and he takes a good shot. He definitely takes a good shot, and he actually has power as well, because I noticed when he did hit Franklin felt them. So I'm thinking, well, hey, it's only because my man had such short notice, and you could see he was out of shape, that he couldn't really. He had to be very, economical with his output. But I think give him some notice, he would cause some serious problems to some Brits over here and some upsets along the way. But yeah, Franklin, he had all the shots. People would probably say, oh, he didn't stop the guy. He landed out all these big shots, head and body. But yeah, for one, Franklin's not a big major power puncher. But also this guy, I think, has a very serious chin, because it's like he was just not really feeling these shots. And I think he'd be able to take shots off of quite a lot of guys, to be fair. But yeah, end of Franklin's free fight deal, and I know why. I can see why he won't fight a Brit over here, but he'll fight other people, because, as you said, Base, the adversity during fight week, everything's going to be put against you. You're not going to be put in the best rooms. You're going to be given the worst times. You're going to be messed around a bit, like even with the Dillian thing with the gloves, all that type of stuff. It's just playing with your energies and your mindset. When you're fighting a Brit over here, you're getting not even B-side treatment. You're getting like D-side treatment. And if he sees himself as a contender, being in his 20s, he knows that the other guys, the top boys he's just fought, are in their 30s. When they're gone, he's still going to be around. So he sees himself as the next gen of heavyweights, who's probably, going to have to go in with the likes of maybe Huey Fury, Gerard Anderson, your boy with the moustache, what's his name again? Richard Torres.
Yeah,
Richard Torres. And my guy, Jalalov, and them kind of man there. So he sees himself in that generation of crop.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, with regards to the fight, no, we're not skipping over it. I'm going to have my say on it. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, real quickly. So I really liked Isaac Munoz, quite frankly. I liked his style. I liked his fluidness, and I liked his composure. Whenever he got hit, except for the time when Jermaine Franklin tried to hit him on his coccyx bone, I don't know why he he did that, and he ran off sort of holding the back of his liver and the top of his gluteus. But outside of that one particular shot, outside of that, he basically he ate everything. Was very unfazed, never panicked after any shot, no matter how hard or soft. He just had a very fluid motion. He looks like if he gets you in a position, it looks like he can actually crack as well. Just by watching his punch technique, I could see how even though obviously I don't know the level of the competition, I can see how he had 17 knockouts from his 19 victories, because he turned over his punches very well. And he even set up a couple. He was just managing his had to manage his energy reserves, hence why I don't think he was able to really step on the gas. And even though both of them had short notice, I just think Jermaine's been in the gym, staying active, and he's been in 2 fights in the last 6 months anyway, 7 months. So he's kind of sharper. I don't know what the last time Munoz had a fight, but I know he was training for a fight, I think, in a couple of weeks' time. But I think it was more towards the start of his camp, and just sort of came into it last minute. But I definitely want to see him against some of the up and coming Brits.
Oh, we lost space. Okay, so is he back? Yeah, he's coming back.
What's happened there? Okay, now you can move on.
Okay, so we lost you for a little second there, so we missed the end of your spiel.
Yeah, you said you want to see him against some
it probably wasn't that much.
Okay.
Yeah, some Brits.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. We'll talk very briefly about Andy Cruz. Who wants to take that one? Because I'm aware I don't want to keep Patrick waiting too long. Anyone?
Yeah, it was a great debut against an opponent which no one in their right mind would go normally up against on your debut. But Andy Cruz, he showed why he is the talent and touted talent that he is. That he was able to outbox him and show all the moves. He was able to work on the inside. The outside box showed that he's very much got a pro style. He's not just like proper. He's not just tippy tapping. And I think maybe then WSB 5-rounders help as well, because that's a bit pro sequence like. So that helps. Yeah, he's a good talent. Obviously, I don't want to take up too much time, but yeah, he showed all the ingredients that he can be moving and fast tracked very soon. And with 5 fights in his 5th fight, I expect to see him as a world champion.
Super sharp, great footwork, in and out, angles, balance, poise, except for obviously when he did the big spin around in the first round, looking like he was on cables in a CGI action film. Outside of that, everything else was perfect to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it. He even had Burgos out on several occasions. And I think he's come the closest to anyone that's come close to stopping Burgos. Obviously, Burgos has got insane powers of recovery, and his tactic is that he will basically throw something that keeps you, that basically stops you from entering for the kill, and it gives him that moment of pause to get to sort of get his senses back and get back into a defensive position. But yeah, I was very, very impressed by the debut. And the lack of stoppage didn't affect that in any way, shape, or form for me. If he keeps on the trajectory he's on, he's going places, and I feel he's with the right training team as well to adjust fully into the pro game.
Yeah, Bruce Kai, to add to that, yes, he does have the power. He showed the power already. He lifted Burgos off his feet numerous times, hurt him many times. Nobody has stopped him. Keyshawn Davis, Devin Haney's come nowhere near even wobbling this guy. So yeah, this guy shows he has got power. If he was to debut against a person you'd normally expect him to debut against, he'd have blasted him out in 30 seconds and then blasted through the next 10. But that people ain't got time for all that with this guy. You don't need to do all that with this guy. This guy can be fast tracked. So you're stepping him up to fringe world level guys who take shots and go the distance with you. So yeah, and great training team with Boozy Ennis. It was great to see him having a translator in the corner. So they're obviously he's going to have to improve his Spanish. I know that in the East Coast they ain't really that fluent with it, but yeah, it shows that he's got someone an interpreter, and Cruz is he's grasping and he's learning, so that's good.
Well,
Cool,
that
cool.
the woman that he had is actually she's been in his training team for like the last 8-9 years. She's a part of his amateur team, so she stays with him, and he keeps her obviously there doing the cuts and the Vaseline. So he trusts her a lot, and she's the branch between him and Bozy at the moment. But he's learning a little bits of language. I'm sure you saw that video that that Boots put out of him in the gym where they gave him the phrases to say. So he's learning some stuff. But yeah.
Good.
Cool. Yeah, so Keyshawn Davis has been having a go at Andy Cruz, telling him, turn your punch over. So that will be an interesting one when it comes up, because I'm pretty certain Andy Cruz has had the best out of Keyshawn in the amateurs for years. And now Keyshawn wants his go as a pro. That's going to be an interesting one coming up. But we'll come to that another time. Let's move on, guys. Very quick question for you. Do we do Patrick now and then leave Alycia for the end of the show, or do we do Alycia and then Pat?
Well, I'd like to do Alycia at any time. No offense to Pat, I don't do Pat. Like I don't know where you're getting with that one. I'm gonna leave that to you. Like.
All right, I'm gonna bring Pat in. Because you took the show somewhere. You
took it to the Kingpin. You took it to the Kingpin.
Hey,
so,
Pat.
Patrick, Killian, how you doing?
Nice to see you guys. Was you talking about Alycia Baumgardner then?
Yes. So
it's a bit. Can you?
I can see and hear you, but your picture is freezing, Patrick. So, if there's anything you can do to.
You're stopping you guys.
Yep, all good, man.
I like the t-shirt.
Yeah, so people, if you can't, this is Patrick Killian's work.
Oh, that's better. I can hear now.
Excellent. This t-shirt is a t-shirt produced by Patrick from his artwork. He is a absolutely outstanding artist of boxing. In the background of his picture, you can see is a work he's just done for the upcoming Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford matchup. I'm gonna play a very quick video. So this has sound.
Let me get the link. Yeah. Stopping and starting. I can't stop and start it. I can't hear you completely.
Cool. So I think you just changed. Yeah, you changed device, did you?
Sorry?
Did you change your device?
No. It was just it was pausing and it wasn't. And you would like, I couldn't hear you probably. That's better now though. Well, maybe there was. I'm not sure. It's better now.
Okay, excellent. So guys, you've seen that short little clip of Patrick doing his work.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
I met Patrick several years ago in New York at the Lomachenko versus Linares fight.
Yeah.
We got on like a house on fire straight away, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
Patrick has gone on to do amazing work on a number of fights. He's been commissioned by various bodies, the WBO, the WBC, the IBF, etc., to do art for their events. Their the International Boxing Hall of Fame have got you in to do work. So yeah, so it's been amazing to see your journey. I'm gonna put the ticker of where people can find your work, because you are on Instagram and Twitter. So guys, down below on the ticker, you can see where you can see the marvelous work, and you can purchase this and many others from Patrick. So do get in touch with Patrick if you want to get some of his art. You know, spread the word, tell your friends. So Pat, just tell us briefly about your history. I know you were yourself a fairly decent amateur. You represented Wales as an amateur, much like Danny and I. You actually walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Tell us about your history in the game of boxing.
There's a bit of crackling on there, Tone.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that's coming
from. It's been a long journey, you know, from the amateur side. You know, I started as I always had an interest in it, watching it with my dad, and then I left school at 16 and started. I started training at my. Actually, I started going to a garage, and it was a man called Dennis Rogers, who would actually. This is an interesting story, because Dennis Rogers started in the Newbridge boxing gym when Joe was a little boy. He was coaching in the gym, and then, you know, that was after. Obviously, Enzo took over after, you know, Dennis, and a matter of fact, I went to see my old coach today. He's 83 now, and he's fantastic. Gary Butcher. So they started a club up when I was about 16, and yeah, it just went from there. I totally fell in love with the sport, to be honest with you, Tone. Totally fell in love with it, and I actually thought I was going to turn pro at one point, because for me, you know, I had the opportunity of having Enzo Calzaghe on my doorstep, but, you know, these were hurting. I had gone to art college. I just felt that it played on my mind a lot, and it felt the right thing to do was to just, you know, solely paint and try to, you know, make a thing in this art world. So I got the passion I had anyway. At least I get to follow that, and that's something I love, you know. And even the fighters and the teams are buying my work now, which is a dream, really, you know, for me. You know, the last month I went away, Haney Lomachenko. I did do a deal with Bill Haney. I'm still waiting on that. But we shook hands on it, but I'm still waiting for it to go through. The IBF bought the piece for the IBF office, and it was brilliant. I was painting live in New York, and during the week, Taylor and Teofimo, you know, both liked the piece. Teo asked me how much it was at the time during the week, the build-up. But it was so nice to meet him. The morning after the fight, I get an Instagram message off Teofimo Lopez. Are you still in New York? Yes, champ. I'm still here. I'll be there now after. He comes over to the Inside Hotel. We sit down together having a cup of coffee, and he purchases my painting there and then. That was the morning after the fight. Well, that's a dream come true for me, for something like that to happen, for those guys to actually want to, you know, buy my piece. So that was lovely, and then I got back, and I've just been working on this piece for the last, you know, obviously from initial thought process, I'd say a couple of months, but non-stop over the last couple of weeks since I got back. And I'm pleased with this piece. I think I wanted it to be epic, you know. I wanted to capture the background and the skyline of Vegas and specifically capturing that T-Mobile Arena. And I think I got that. So Yeah, please, Matt, please. The way things are going lately.
Yeah, and what I'm most impressed about by that picture there is that you've got the actual other half of Errol Spence's tattoo, because in the All Access, if you notice, he only has his mum on his chest, but if you look at a recent picture, he's got his dad and the other side of his chest done, and you managed to capture that bit in that photo. So that must have been done really recent, that extra bit of the tattoo.
Well, that's a good point. Are you talking about the tattoos?
Yes, on Errol Spence's chest, yes.
Yeah, because he hasn't had a fight yet with those tattoos, so that was quite. The funny thing was, right? I thought I finished it, and then I looked at it again. I thought, "Oh bollocks! I haven't done the tattoos." So, it was something I knew I had to do. I had to do it because there was enough. I found enough reference just to get it to. It's not perfect, but to get it to look like the tattoos that he's actually got. So I'm pretty pleased with that, and I've actually captured his hair the way that it is now, and the same as with Crawford as well, because Crawford's, is a little bit higher than it's not shaved off, and the same with Errol. So in that respect, I'm pleased with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. That because on All Access, that the father part of the tattoo is not on him. It's only on his picture on Instagram, a recent one, where he's got it updated. So yeah, so he's got it real good. Yeah, and your artwork, I've seen you do, great things. We're talking about Alycia Baumgardner later on, and I saw you done a piece for her, and you introduced, and you got to speak to her, and she saw your work. So that's that's got us a bit jealous over here. So yeah, well done for that one.
I told her there and then she was my boxing crush, and she laughed, and it's all good, she said. But I was at the WBO. Convention, and I was doing that live through the week, and we did a thing then, the WBO, and Paco and myself, we presented it, and so that was a nice thing. But like Tony was just saying, then especially last year, was a fantastic year for me, because obviously like the WBO, the convention, and they commissioned me to do a piece of music, and using my piece of Taylor Serrano on the actual program, and actually using it on the banner that Tony just shown. It was so nice for me. They flew me out to Puerto Rico. I walk into the hotel, and I see my artwork blown up to like this size, and that was a nice feeling to see that. The story behind that, I met with Paco and I should know his name. I do speak to him. He's the lawyer. Anyway. They'd seen my artwork in New York, where me and Tony had met before in the Stewart Hotel, and they said, we really like this piece. We really, because of the women, and they wanted to make a focus on the convention of the women, and they said we'll be in touch. And then a couple of months after, they got in touch about using the painting as the program cover, and obviously as the using it on all the things that they within the convention. So that was great for myself, to have that, and to be part of it as well. It was just a brilliant week, and I'd never been to Puerto Rico, so that was even better again. To go to, and again, with Chicago, I'd never been to Chicago with the IBF, so that was great, and obviously the WBA Florida. I'd never been to Florida either, so but I'm still working on that piece of which is so close. I'm just doing little bits of I'm just working on little tiny bits now to finish it off of the WBA 100 years, and it's very close to finishing. But every time I look at it, there's something else, because I realised that I think I might have to add a couple more women to the piece, which is to be honest, I really wanted to get that. I wanted to get it off. I wanted to get it sent out before going out to Vegas now on Sunday. So when are you guys gonna? When are we gonna meet up out there?
So I go out on the Tuesday next week, but I actually don't hit Vegas till Friday. So I'll probably be at around on Friday afternoon, and obviously all day Saturday. So I'll definitely be looking you up. Across the road from the T-Mobile at the Cosmopolitan. So we will definitely be having drinks, my friend.
We'll have a couple,
quick question.
If
anyone's got any questions they want to put in the chat, you've got a fan in North Bank, Bren, who says he's got your Four Kings print. It's one of his favorites.
Thank you, man. It's a very
this piece is one of those Four Kings.
It's a 4-piece painting, but yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's one of my favorites. Actually, when you asked me earlier, I don't know why I didn't bring that up. I've done so many. That's a nice one. I mean, it's very rare to get Marvin Hagler to sign a piece of artwork, and obviously he's passed out. So that was a very and that's a collector's got that one. He's got quite a few of my pieces, one guy. So that's a bit of a treasure trove there, because it's very rare to get Hagler to sign anything.
Yeah, that's right. That's a piece I would treasure in my collection, as I've picked the Marvin Hagler T-shirt out of the Four Kings that you've done. But let's talk about this guy, because this is one of your favorite all-time fighters. You mentioned this to me a bit earlier, that he's one of your favorites. Tell us about your love of Iron Mike. You've obviously met him as well.
Yeah, I think that I do like that piece. It's one of my favorite pieces. I think it's because of the simplicity, but it's still powerful. It's very powerful. He was one of my favorites, but purely because, you know, I grew up in that era of Tyson. I was a 12-year-old kid when he won the title in '86, and probably influenced me to start boxing. And matter of fact, definitely an influence in my style, my early style anyway. And I was a come forward fighter. I would go to the body, slip, and so yeah, I did. I loved him. I met him a few times. Quite a character, and he's got to be on the. I've met him a few times where. The one time, it's just quite a good story. I was going out to Muhammad Ali's charity to Phoenix, Arizona for Muhammad Ali's Celebrity Fight Night. And this was 2010. And at that time, I was doing a couple of special pieces where they were called Amongst Legends. And the person that bought the painting they had the opportunity to be in the painting, right? Whether as the referee or whatever. And this one, you had the opportunity to be in the painting as the referee. Well, I was doing quite a few pieces of Tyson versus Ali at the time. And we were, because Tyson was in the country, I was doing quite a few of these, and we were getting Tyson to sign them, and then they were, the winning bidder would get into the piece. Well, I was looking for reference, and I come across this Celebrity Fight Night charity event with Muhammad Ali, right? I messaged the CEO straight away. I do this year in the UK, Tyson versus Ali. He phoned me up within half an hour. We want you to come over and do a live painting, Ali versus Tyson. I said, great. I said, I'll get it signed by Tyson in Leeds. So the story is, no matter what happened, I thought, I got to get it signed by Tyson. So I went with 2 pieces. I was in Leeds doing this. It was an evening with Tyson. But I took 2 with me. One to go to this Celebrity Fight Night event in Phoenix, Arizona with Ali, and one for the event there. So they were having dinner, and they said, don't disturb Tyson while he's having his dinner. Well, I was right by the side of him painting. I was doing a live painting, but I thought, well, this is my opportunity. This is my opportunity to get it signed. And I had to get it signed because Ali was going to sign it in Phoenix. Well, what a painting. So I went up to Tyson. I said, hey, Mike, this is going to be auctioned in Celebrity Fight Night, Muhammad Ali's charity. It's going to be signed by Ali too. All right, sign it. He took the pen off me. I just signed it, Mike Tyson. And I thought, oh, brilliant. I looked at Mike and said, can I have a photo, Mike? And he just looked at me like this. He just looked at me with a stare and went, I'm eating my dinner. And I went, oh, sorry, Mike. I said, sorry, Mike, no problem. I just carried on what I was doing. I didn't bother having the photograph. I just carried on what I was doing. But what a painting, and to be honest, it's one of those ones that I probably wish I kept. Because it was signed by Ali and Tyson. When is that ever going to come about again, you know? I should have sent you that picture. But, you know, yeah, that was one of the... And then another time I saw him, I saw him another time where he actually made a point of coming over to my exhibit and looking at all my paintings. And I said, oh, I got some prints for you, Mike. He said, oh, can I have a look at them? And it's that montage, just posted of that montage. And I said, he said, oh, let me have a look. So I showed him. He said, oh, yeah. He said, I'll have them. I said, oh, all right, if you sign a few pieces for me, Mike? He said, yeah, no problem. And he signed about 4 originals. And that was a brilliant time that I met him. And then obviously I met him in Vegas where he signed that piece with a quote of Customaro's quote on the top. That was a fantastic week for me because that was Wilder versus Fury 2. And that weekend, Tyson was doing a signing session. I'd never seen the MGM, the queue to the Art of Music store to get a signing by Mike was unbelievable. They made over $200,000 on a weekend of signing, just gloves, signing photographs. I couldn't believe it. But it was so nice for me to be there doing a live painting at Tyson, and then he signed my painting at the end. But I sold the both paintings that week, so that was amazing. But yeah, I'm blabbering on here, Tom, so I'll leave you guys take over.
Nice one. So, Pat, who's your money on? Spence or Crawford?
I'm not going to put any money on this one. I think it's a very... you know what I say to people? Like, you know, you boxed. You know, it's whoever lands that flush shot. And if they can capitalize on that flush shot. I must admit, I probably prefer the style of Spence. I like his come forward style and his body shots, and I do like that. But then you look at Terence, and I liked what he said in a couple of interviews. That he said, "I've seen it all. I've seen all styles." So you know, it's going to be interesting to see how we can switch with Errol. And yeah, I just thought because you know when we have these sort of fights, you know, like the Pacquiao and Mayweather or whatever, it's sometimes if there's a you know 2 tentative athletes and they're like being picky. I hope it's not that. I hope we have something like a Hagler Hearns would be amazing if it happens.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Pat, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's been wonderful. As I said earlier, I look forward to seeing you next week in Vegas for the big show.
Thanks for inviting me on, guys.
No problem. And guys, just as the ticker tape is down below, do follow Pat. You can get a hold of his art. He has various formats, whether it be canvas, whether it be T-shirts, cards, mugs, you name it. You can get his work on a number of different formats. So thank you very much, and we will catch up next week, Pat.
Thank you, guys. All the best.
Cheers.
Take care.
So
big up to Pat. Obviously, I came off the stream to see if that would help with the bandwidth a little bit. Hope it did, guys. Apologies, anyone who heard a little bit of crackling on the mic or whatever. You know, but yeah, shout out to Pat. Amazing work. Definitely be copying a few pieces of art at some point, and I hope you guys will as well.
Likewise.
Right, so guys, that leads us to the last action of the weekend to discuss. The most beautiful. I had to put a little bit of her intro into my my footage because, you know, I was kind of just happy to see her shake her thing, but in the ring, she's something else. Base, I'm gonna let you get on with this one.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that. Okay, so Alycia Baumgardner versus Christina Linardatou 2. It was obviously Alycia was there to defend her I should say to get back the only defeat she's ever had as a pro. Now this fight was actually, it was a very fun fight to watch. In the first round, the first 2 rounds, you could look at it and you felt as if Alycia just had the strength advantage. Like you could tell that it looked as if Christina, who has not really fought at 130 for about 5 years or so, you could tell that she definitely felt making the weight, even though she actually looked like she made it well. But it looks like 130, even though she can make the weight, it's not her at her most effective. That being said, extremely tough and durable. She took some big shots, both to head and body, as you can see there. Alycia is very good sort of with that, with the body work and transitioning from head to body. But Christina Linardatou very much pressured Alycia from the start of the fight to the end of the fight. And what would the thing that kind of surprised me is that Christina was the one that, even though she was constantly moving forward and throwing, she was the one that you could see was visibly tired by like the 7th round. Alycia was tired as well. Like we all know, sort of her gas tank, it sort of ebbs and flows. But I feel like she was able to kind of manage her outbursts a lot more than she has done in previous fights, and just due to that, I feel like she was able to control sort of more the flow of the fight. But for the first 6 rounds, I had it neck and neck. To me, it was 3 rounds apiece after 6. Then Alycia took over from round 7 to 9, and then in the 10th round, Christina really rallied back and gave it everything she had, and I scored that round as a draw for myself. So I ended up having scorecards 97-94. It was a very competitive fight. I feel like the official scorecards were a little bit wide, in my opinion, but the right person won. Alycia definitely, she got a kick back, she got a lick back, and yeah, this is gonna, if she had any demons about her previous self, you know, like she's definitely erased those now. I doubt there will ever be a you know, I guess a rubber match between the two. Not really necessary. Although, I mean, maybe if she goes back up to 135, or even eventually goes to 140, maybe that might be a good chance to run it back with Christina, you know, later on, and see if she can actually get that knockout that she was waiting for. But yeah, much improved from the first one. Managed the energy a lot better than previously, and the power, she's turning over shots even better than she did before. And yeah, her and Tony Harrison just look like they are a match made in heaven in terms of you know, trainer and trainee. So congrats to Alycia. She wants all the smoke. She's been wanting all the smoke. She is a superstar. She speaks like one. She acts like one. And there are other, you know, there are many other you know, women in divisions and whatnot that can sort of take a leaf out of her book on how to be marketable, how to do sort of media obligations in the right way, and just to sort of be, you know, that person that people want to gravitate to and want to talk to. So yeah, this wasn't necessarily the coming out party, but that's due to arrive, especially if you can get that Serrano or Katie Taylor or Chantel Cameron fight down the line. So yeah, big up to her. And also, yeah, a big up to Christina Linardatou as well. Tough as hell, you know, Dominican lady, like she, you know, she put everything into it. The two of them obviously have got mad respect for each other, and it was just a really good fight to watch and to witness. So yeah, shout outs.
Dan?
Yeah. So first off, yeah, it was a good build up. I could see there was mutual respect. You know, normally Alycia gets very, fiery and verbal with the expletives when she's in face-offs with her opponents. But they was having a little chat. But you could see there was both respect because she knows that this woman's beat her before. So it's about getting her get back. And the entrance. Linardatou, she come out dancing to some of her tune. So I thought, okay, she's coming out with some of that Dominican heat and all that. I said, all right. But then when Alycia come out with Sada Baby from Detroit, Michigan rapper, yeah, she come out, she come out firing. The outfit, the glasses, the dance moves. Yeah, she was moving fly. So yeah, the first round she let off a good salvo. I'll tell you, do you know what her style? It kind of reminds me a bit of Joshua Boazzi and a bit like Deontay Wilder when he fought Stavern the first time. And she's able to do these big outburst salvos, but then she has to take a break here and there. But she definitely managed it better this time than she did last time out, where she was breathing like a 20-a-day smoker, where this time she kind of managed her outburst salvos very well, like big head and body shots. You can tell if it wasn't Christina Linardatou who was tough, the average opponent would have gone down and got stopped or knocked out because there were some serious power punches. I gave Alycia the first and second round. I gave Linardatou the third round. I gave Alycia the fourth and fifth. Gave Linardatou the sixth, 7, 8, 9. Baumgardner and the 10th I gave to Linardatou, hence I had the score 97-93. So just a point out from base. So we had it pretty much the same and saw it. The scorecard 99-91 was silly. 92-98. I can kind of see it if you maybe gave Alycia the sixth, but I thought that she lost it. But yeah, yeah. She got her thing back and she's called out the big names, Chantel Cameron, Amanda Serrano, which will be big, especially out in New York on the East Coast. And yeah, she's definitely very marketable, very attractive, and she knows how to market herself to be sexy, fly, city girl, bad bee, but not move trashy like some of these other, like Suki, and she doesn't do that whole, hoish thing. She keeps it fly with dignity, like you're moving hot but fly with it. So yeah, she's very marketable. So keep doing what you're doing, and I think she's someone who a lot of female boxers, young teenage girls who come up in the boxing world should look to, especially out in the Americas.
Yeah, absolutely. So what can I add to that? I mean, first and foremost, I was hugely impressed by Christina Linardatou at the it wasn't at the weigh-in, it was the day before the presser, where she turned up with the war hat, the red war hat, which for those who don't know, look it up. Marvin Hagler made that cat famous. So from that, I was like, yeah, she paid respect to this guy. And I was like, yeah, that's my girl, but I like Alycia, but from whence you wear the war cap, yeah, you're gonna get it popping. Obviously both entrances for both girls were fly. I love the get up for Alycia. She had some really nice designer stuff made for her, custom made, the long gloves going down to the elbow. But when it came to the action, she definitely stepped up her game. She's becoming something of a treasure in the world of boxing. And, the fact that she's calling out some really big names, a fight with Serrano would be an amazing matchup, if you ask me. But she's definitely honing in on her skill factor. She's improving fight by fight. Her punch selection is phenomenal. Let me say it again. Her punch selection is phenomenal. You guys have had an opportunity to see some of the small amount of highlight I was able to grab from ringside, where she's picking shots to head and body. She's doing it with such grace and style. that it makes you think, you know, who out there is going to stop her. But, you know, look, credit to Linardatou. She, without being overtly aggressive, she was a busy fighter. She was busy for the whole fight in terms of her movement, but she seems to stop. She moves, she throws a bit of punches, but then when she's hit, once you get that hand in, and Alycia seems to sort of stop Linardatou by just using a prodding jab, and then that stops Linardatou moving, and then she can just tee off, and she doesn't do the movement so much as soon as she gets that first shot in. So that was unfortunate for Linardatou because her game plan always stops as soon as she starts getting hit. You know, at that point, her defense is unable to do anything against what Alycia is throwing. So when Alycia starts throwing those combinations and picking those shots, Linardatou effectively is a standing target. But, you know, credit to Alycia. She looked absolutely amazing in doing what she did. I think that when she comes up against a Serrano, that becomes much more of a problem to find those shots, because Serrano isn't going to stand there and allow you to hit the way she did. But it's going to be interesting.
Yes, she is. Serrano is a come forward person. Serrano is there to be big.
Yeah, but she's a work rate fighter. With Linardatou,
but she's not.
She works, but then when she gets the first punch in, receives a punch, she stops. Literally, look at what she does. She, you know, she's busy, and then she gets hit, and then she stops, and it's like, oh, I don't know what to do now because she's hitting me. Whereas Serrano, she ain't gonna stop throwing punches.
Well, when Alycia Baumgardner hits you, she tends to stop people in their tracks, as we've seen on more than one occasion.
Yeah,
when Katie Taylor was hitting her, when Katie Taylor was hitting Amanda Serrano, she weren't really firing off, you know, left, right, and center. She was getting befuddled. So I'm telling you, when Alycia chops that overhand right on her temple, she's gonna know about herself.
Nice. Okay, so it's all good. It's all good. Let's hear what Base has got to say on that matter.
No, I mean, if we're talking about Linardatou, like, I think it was more the weight and the fact that she's feeling punches that she hasn't felt for a while, and it's like, oh, okay, I have to be careful here. I know I can take shots because I've taken those shots before, but these shots feel different. Alycia said, you know, this strength different. She told her that, like, this ain't the same person you fought 5 years ago. And I just think that with that, Christina thought to herself, okay, no, I have to actually be sensible here, and I can't just throw for the sake of throwing like I've done previously. I need to try and get into a position where it's a bit safer. If you look at the rest of her fights previously, she doesn't sort of stop when she gets hit. When she fought Katie Taylor, she went through Katie Taylor's shots, and Katie had to use angles to win that fight. So, you know, I don't disagree with your assessment on this fight, Tony, but I disagree with it in general, because that's not how Christina normally is. I just think making the 130 was an issue, or it's a weight that she's not really comfortable at anymore. But the chance to be undisputed was too good to turn down. In terms of Amanda Serrano, Amanda is like almost like a pressuring boxer puncher, but she has very little defense. She's there to be hit, and she's never been hit by someone who punches as hard as Alycia. Now, the one thing Amanda does have is work rate. So if she can take Alicia's punches, she punches, I wouldn't say she punches as hard, but she punches hard enough that she will hurt Alycia as well. And if Alycia can't move and get out of the way and actually be able to keep up a good pace for the, you know, for the duration of the fight, she could end up being unstuck on work rate, or potentially getting stopped by accumulation. To fight off someone like Amanda Serrano, you need to be someone like Erica Cruz that can just throw and throw unlimited, no matter how wild it is, just throw unlimited punches for the entire duration of every second of every 2 minutes of each round. you know, with that Mexican high altitude training that she does and where she lives. So yeah, it will be a fireworks fight, but it won't be one of those fights where it's like rock'em sock'em from the start. It will start off cagey. First 2-3 rounds, they almost won't do much, and then one person will get hit hard, and then that's when they're like, okay, this ain't working. So now we just gotta go to war, and whoever survives survives. That's how I would see the fight kind of playing out if they fought each other.
Yeah, and one thing I will say is one bit of advice I would give to Alycia going forward. Maybe it might help her when she goes up the weights. Is she could put on a little more carbohydrate fat because she comes in very ripped with low body fat because she's very ripped up top, and that might be the reason why when she lays off these big salvos, the lactic acid kicks in and she needs to take breaks here and there. But yeah, I think that if she puts on some carbohydrates in the upper body, then it might help her energy levels a bit better. It comes in very ripped and that will affect the lactic acid.
Cool. Excellent. Guys, thank you very much for the breakdown this evening. I hope that you've all enjoyed tonight's show, guys. As you know, this is my last show before I go away. Obviously, the boys will be covering the action from this weekend, next week. And then, of course, I won't be back the following week because I will still be out in the US. I'm going from Las Vegas to New York, visit some of my family, relax from the humdrum of Vegas. So yeah, it'll be a couple of weeks before you see me well. But guys, thank you very much for coming on this show. In the coming week, Base and Dani will be having a chop it up Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence breakdown. They will be having a no holds barred tete-a-tete, mano-a-mano discussion about who will win this upcoming battle royale. So be sure to be on this guy's channel, the Neutral Corner. I'm going to put up his ticker so that you can catch that show, because these two are going to cause fire when that discussion takes place.
Didn't you want to have your little say on it this week? Isn't that why you wanted to jump on?
I'm going to have my say, but I know you guys are holding back. But I want to promo you guys for when that show takes place on the Neutral Corner. But for those of you who want to know how I see the fight taking place, this is one that is split by a hair in terms of who can win. I can see both winning. This is the most 50-50, 49-51% type fight there is, which is why I've gone out on a limb to get to this fight, because I believe this to be the Sugar Ray versus Duran of the era. Two guys at the top of their game, superb technicians. This is going to be, to me, an absolutely amazing fight. Now, there are no guarantees in life. Errol could knock out Terence Bud Crawford. Let me say that. Errol could knock out Terence Bud Crawford. But at the same time, let's not forget, Terence is on a destruction course right now. You got to go back, 11 fights for him before he saw the last bell? So this could easily be a fight that ends before the final bell. However, I do believe it sees the final bell, because I just think that they will be so cagey, and this is going to be one of them fights that you will see styles changing. Both, Terence Crawford is the guy who can work things out in a fight. And for that reason, I'm picking Crawford, because I think he starts slowly. I think Errol gets ahead of pace, but Crawford works him out and eventually takes over 3 or 4, into about around 3 or 4, he starts to work out Errol timing wise, angles wise, and he goes on to dominate the rest of the fight. But wouldn't surprise me if somebody gets floored. Wouldn't surprise me if there was a knockout. So all I can say is the winner in this fight, boxing fans. This year, amazing how many great fights we've got coming up. I haven't even talked about Steph Fulton against the Monster Inoue, because that happens on while I'm away, and I personally, I'm super hyped about that fight as well. I actually did think about seeing, God, how could I get to Japan and then get to Vegas, because I would love to have been at both fights. But yeah, alas, the purse strings weren't going to work that one out, because Japan is hella expensive to get to.
All right. Well, yeah, so as you guys can see, you got Dani's ticker tape down there right there. So make sure you lot tune into FightFanTV live on YouTube. His neutral corners is great content, and occasionally you'll see him at shows like chatting to people as well. He doesn't do much of that anymore, but it'd be nice if he gets back down there, although he's normally there doing security, stopping the riffraff from getting close to the fighters. So obviously you got him on Instagram as well, FightFanTV live. He does have a personal account, but I'll leave that to him, whether he wants to give you that one. And just on Twitter, Dani Savvy, right? He's always on there for the good knowledge. We had a good exchange on there yesterday regarding Nassim Hamed and sort of the quality of some of the opposition. We came to an understanding on 4.5 people, but we'll say 5. And we disagreed on the other 3. So let me just check.
2, but yeah.
Well, the third one I was never allowing. So whether you agreed, I'm like, nah, I can't do it. He said, what they saying though? He up. All right, yeah. So yeah, basically what Jam Down is saying there is, if Errol Spence gets up on the cards after 6 rounds, it's peak for him, because Crawford will not be having that, or if it's perceived that he's up on the cards. So North Brenker says, shout out to us 3, great show and the great guests. Yeah, again, big thank you to Patrick for coming on, Mr. Patrick Killian. And it's just a shame we couldn't really dedicate a bit more time to that one, but it was a really good, it was really insightful to understand his journey as well. So big up to him. Also, while we're here, throw up Tony's ticker tape real quick. Do you think, Tone?
Yep, you can catch me on all platforms, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at the Pugilist Boy. Instagram, however, is Pugilistic Boy, because my original account was removed. So, put yourself
and
up,
then,
please.
yeah, lastly, me, if I had have known that there was no Monday Night Smoke yesterday, I would have put up content, because I try not to put up content on the days when we do the live things, just out of respect for the traffic and everything. And there's a lot of crossover. I will have something up tomorrow. I'm not sure what time it will be up, but there will definitely be videos tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, and Saturday and Sunday. I'm gonna do something all the way through the next 5 days. BaseDaKID, the hardcore casual. Make sure you guys check out that. If you're interested in memberships, there are memberships now. There is membership only content. I'm waiting. I'm only going to do bits and pieces until the members grow. So they'll get a couple new things a month, but I won't do too much at this precise moment. But there's a steady number coming in. Subscribers are building. So yeah, thank you. BASC on Twitter, B_A_S_E, but you can just type in BaseDaKID, I'll show up. I'm on Instagram, but don't go there looking for boxing content, because you won't find it. Right. And so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next week, except for Tony, who we will see in about 3 weeks time, but yeah, he will be there enjoying. So from me and the rest of the panel, peace.
Bless.